Free agency is always a crazy time, but today let's talk about the 5 things that we have learned from this year's free agency. There were many lessons and many contracts that were handed out, and as of when I'm making this video, we still have a lot more contracts to come out and a lot more to learn. So today, let's just talk about what we've learned thus far. And we will begin with our number 5 biggest thing that we've learned in free agency being the running back market is back. Last year, it felt like every single running back was just struggling to get any sort of contract over $5 million. Teams were franchise tagging them and basically telling it to their face that they were not going to give them massive contracts. And even though there wasn't any player that got astronomical $20 million deals like there maybe used to have been, we did see a lot of guys get some pretty good sized contracts for long-term money. We're looking at Josh Jacobs, who got a 4-year, $48 million deal. Saquon Barkley, who got a 3-year, $37 million deal. DeAndre Swift and Tony Pollard both had 3-year contracts with over $20 million, respectively. Devin Singletary got $5 million a year over 3 years. Derrick Henry, 2 years, $16 million, and many others. I mean, a lot of these guys are entering that stage of running backs where we kind of view them as replaceable. Those are guys who are over the age of 25 or 26, where their explosiveness may not still be there, but they still have a lot of good things for them. Example, look at Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. Yet despite that, it does appear like running backs are starting to get a little bit more respect for what they can produce. Obviously, there's still some contracts out there like Ezekiel Elliott and Austin Eckler who are not going to get paid a ton of money because of their age and because of what's happened to them. However, top tier running backs who are proven to be good commodities in this league are still going to get massive contracts like a Josh Jacobs or a Saquon Barkley. I think had these guys come out last year, I think a lot of them would have been franchise tagged or maybe given a small 2-year extension worth maybe $15 to $17 million, which I think then they probably would have been okay with. But with the recent success of Christian McCaffrey, I think some teams are a little bit more open to bringing in older running backs like a Saquon or a Josh Jacobs for decently sized contracts. Again, they're not getting paid $20 million, but $12 million annually is still very good. The next thing that I've learned is that rivalries and loyalty to a team is fading. You look at all the Dallas Cowboys that have joined the Washington Commanders and just look at the entirety of the AFC North with guys like Geno Stone going to Cincinnati from the Baltimore Ravens and Patrick Queen going from the Ravens to the Steelers. It's been all over the entire NFL this year of guys going from one team in their division to another team within their division. Hell, look at the whole Green Bay Packers, Aaron Jones in Minnesota thing. It just seems like it's been happening over and over again. And I think that tells you a couple things. Number one, loyalty from a specific players to specific teams is somewhat fading. You look at guys like, again, Patrick Queen, Josh Jacobs, Danielle Hunter, guys who have been spending a lot of their career in one team will move on to a separate team for either A, more money, or B, better opportunities, or just B, personal reasons. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that as a player. Me personally, if you're not going to show me loyalty as a franchise, then I'm going to go take my talent somewhere else that may value me even more. But I think gone are the days of players in non-quarterback positions staying on one team for a whole entire career. I think, hell, look at guys like Jerry Rice who spent over 15 years with the 49ers. I just don't think that's going to happen all that much in today's league, and rightfully so. I mean, again, going back to what I was saying, you have so many players who spend so much time with one team and give them everything they have, and then they come up to them with these cheap contracts, and it's like, I can get paid elsewhere, more money. So I don't blame the players. I think they're doing the right thing for themselves. But in a sense, I do think it does kind of hurt the rivalries. Again, when you have guys from Dallas going to Washington, it just kind of tells you that that rivalry is completely dead. Look at Saquon going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Do you think he really cared about that rivalry like we fans do? I think fans need to realize that rivalries still exist and they still are prominent in the league, but when it comes to players, a lot of them just don't view certain games different like we as fans do. The next thing we learned, and it's kind of funny, but it's true, the Dallas Cowboys just hate free agency. This is the 4th year in a row where the Dallas Cowboys have been the last team to pick up any free agents, and it's going to continue to follow suit in the long-term future. Cowboys fans are currently going crazy because they see all this talent that's leaving their team and going to others, and certain players they could potentially sign and bring into their roster that they haven't done yet. And I feel bad for Cowboys fans because they probably don't deserve it, but Cowboys fans got to realize the front office is extremely stingy, and they're also not going to overpay for players who are maybe worth it, but not worth it in the eyes of their team. I think the best example of this is when they could have gotten Zach Moss for a 2-year, $8 million deal, but they didn't want to pay him $4 million a year, which is crazy, especially when they need running backs. I think it tells you that Dallas values the draft way more than they do free agency, and I don't necessarily disagree with them because I would agree that the draft is where you find most of your stars and your all-pros, and the free agency is where you kind of build the rest of your roster. But Dallas hasn't made any moves, and to be honest with you, I don't think they've even contacted that many people to begin with. This is a Cowboys team that has a ton of glaring needs, like a linebacker, like some safeties, like some offensive linemen, like a running back, like a wide receiver next to CeeDee Lamb. Yet despite that, they've made one move, and it was re-signing their long snapper. So for Cowboys fans, I think you just have to take a step back and realize the Dallas Cowboys aren't going to do anything in free agency that is noteworthy. They're not going to go out there and sign a Eric Armstead, or they're not going to go out there and sign X player. They're just going to continue to do what they do. And yes, it's worked out enough for them to win 12 games, but it's never going to be enough to win a Super Bowl until eventually Jerry Jones or somebody within the front office steps down. Next thing that I think we learned from this free agency period is that the Atlanta Falcons are all in to win a Super Bowl. Unlike the Dallas Cowboys, the Atlanta Falcons have been really aggressive this offseason, signing guys like Darnell Mooney and, of course, Kirk Cousins. We'll start off with the Darnell Mooney contract, which I really actually like for some reason. I think he is a fantastic fit alongside Drake London. Yes, $13 million is a little rich for me, but I'm okay with it when the fit is that nice. And they brought in Kirk Cousins on a 4-year, $180 million deal worth $45 million annually. The Atlanta Falcons just don't care if Kirk Cousins is injured or has had past injuries. They're going to work it out and they're going to go all in, and I respect that. Similar to the Denver Broncos with Russell Wilson, going all in is never a bad thing. Atlanta is a team that has a lot of talent, and unlike Denver, who on paper had talent, this Atlanta Falcons team genuinely has talent, and they have young guys who are going to be around the league for quite some time who aren't getting paid massive amounts of money so that they can go out there and afford a guy like a Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, while an unproven player in the playoffs, is a very proven player in the regular season, and I think has never really had a team surrounding him like he has now in Atlanta. In my opinion, the Atlanta Falcons knew that they had a really good chance to be a very good team that could do special things if they made the right moves. Going out there, getting a Kirk Cousins, and being aggressive to get guys like Darnell Mooney and other players tells you a lot about the direction the Atlanta Falcons want to take their roster, especially in an NFC South that, quite frankly, is pretty damn bad. So for Atlanta Falcons fans, I think it's time to get really excited about this team because they're going to add a pass rusher in the draft more than likely, and they're going to fix some other small little holes in their game, and they're going to make a long, deep playoff run in an NFC that is kind of getting weaker with teams like Dallas and San Francisco taking some steps back. But lastly, the biggest thing that I think we learned from this free agency period is that Justin Fields is done. And this is kind of a sad thing to say, but there is absolutely zero market for him right now, and reports are coming out that Justin Fields might be a backup next year, which tells you everything you kind of need to know. Because right now, the only good thing that could potentially happen for Justin Fields is that either A, he goes to a team like Minnesota to be their starting quarterback, or B, he ends up being the starting quarterback for a team like Chicago. But Chicago's not going to trade away the number 1 overall pick unless they get 3 or 4 first-round picks, which is just not going to happen. So Caleb Williams will be a Chicago Bear more than likely. And it sucks for Justin Fields because he's under the assumption that if he gets because he was under the assumption that had he got traded, he was going to go to a team that was going to give him a good-sized contract. However, now, whatever team trades for him is not going to give him anywhere near the amount of money that he probably wants. And Justin Fields is still a young player with a lot of hidden talents that I think could be a top 15 quarterback in this league. But despite that, it doesn't seem like the NFL seems to value him that much because you have teams like Pittsburgh going out there and getting Russell Wilson. You have teams like Minnesota going out there for Sam Darnold. The Raiders going out there for Gardner Minshew. And of course, the Atlanta Falcons going for Kirk Cousins. And while I don't think Gardner Minshew and Sam Darnold are the long-term answers for those quarterback positions, it does tell you that they are going to prioritize a younger quarterback in this year's draft like a Bo Nix or Michael Penix over a guy like a Justin Fields who's been in the league for quite some time now. I think it tells you everything you need to know about Justin Fields and his current projection. Teams don't value him, and I just don't know if he's going to find a roster that he's going to be on next year. A guy with all the talent in the world, with a cannon of an arm, freakish athleticism, and has been experienced and has done some really good things in the league, is not going to get as valuable as a guy like a JJ McCarthy or a Bo Nix of this year's draft. Teams would rather spend $10 million to bring in Sam Darnold, who's a pretty decent backup, to be their starting quarterback or to be a mentor to their young quarterback they pick up. And for Chicago and Justin Fields, you would imagine that they probably are regretting not trading him earlier, because had they done that, maybe this wouldn't be the situation, this wouldn't be the case. Though with how things have played out, it's just ended up being this, because I just don't think there's any team has any interest in Justin Fields anymore. But as we sit right now, we are only just starting free agency and we're only just starting the off season. So if you guys want to add any other points that I missed out in this video, let me know in the comment section below. But I love you guys.